you ready for the pinball revolution?
I am ready.
The beloved pastime of pinball for the past few decades is seeing a resurgence like we've never seen before, and some are calling the golden age of pinball.
We're seeing increase in new innovations, renovation of how the game is made, as well as communities that are really starting to latch on to pinball as a whole.
If you're a seasoned player or just discovering the thrill of the flipper, this is the episode you want to catch as we talk about the future of pinball and where it is headed.
And when are we going to do this?
Well, we're going to do it right after this.
Don't come round and waste my time. A generation of my time. There is nothing we can do. Stop this plague from breaking through.
Welcome to Whiskey Pot. My name's Jeff,
And I'm Zane,
and today we're going to talk about pinball.
which is one of my favorite pastime hobbies.
Before we talk about pinball,
We need to do one thing.
whiskey?
We need to share our whiskey.
Now, I think we should preface this with, if I remember correctly, just a few moments ago,
Yes.
we did talk about whiskey.
We did.
If we actually
we did.
rewound back for a second, you would see that we actually popped the bottle open, poured glasses, and then a mishap happened in the studio and we had to reshoot some
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, with the
This
snap of
stuff
my
you're
fingers,
getting
we're
right
going to
now.
have whiskey in our hands.
Just like that, here we go again.
That's right. And what are we having today?
This is Davis County Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, finished in lightly toasted American oak barrels. It's lightly toasted.
So it's toasted
Lightly.
lightly, and then
Lightly.
later on we're going to be lit. Let's taste this right fast, shall we?
Okay, let's do this.
Now we're going to review this next Friday on Second Pour.
That's correct, where we will review Davis County lightly toasted
So be sure to join us on this next Friday.
on Second Pour
Okay,
next Friday
let's do it.
when we review this.
Sounds good.
Thank God it's Friday!
All right, so pinball has been around for decades,
Yes.
but recently there's been this resurgence, right? Well, in the last few years.
Yeah, of course.
And so with this resurgence, we've seen a big change. Pinball was on its death knell at one point, right?
That's right. I mean, it almost completely went away. In fact, there was a time period where there was just basically one manufacturer of pinball left in the world.
And who was that?
That was Stern.
But then something happened. It must be from that feeling you get when you pull back the plunger.
Yeah.
And the ball rolls down its path and then hits that little, what's that little thing called?
What, you mean like the pop bumpers?
Yeah, that's a good name
Yeah.
for it.
Well, this
Yeah.
is what you're referring to is what the great Keith Elwin refers to as kinetic satisfaction.
Well, because of that kinetic satisfaction, that kinetic energy is turning into a resurgence that cannot be stopped.
That is correct.
And it is creating a multi-ball experience for a ton of new pinball enthusiasts.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that. But before we can talk about it, we need to talk about the past decades, what it was like in the dark ages of pinball.
Yeah, when it almost completely went away.
Bring out your dead!
So we would say that pinball has had its fair share of challenges over the years.
Oh, of course.
So back in the 70s and 80s, pinball was still kind of a thing, but there was this thing that happened with arcades.
Yeah, the digital age, as you would call it, hit the arcade.
And it started really taking quarters away from the pinball.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and then home consoles came out, right?
Yeah, and it did away with the arcade and all together.
And what was left of pinball. I remember, so in the 70s and 80s, my father worked on pinballs and arcade machines. And I can remember even pinballs back in the 80s feeling like just old 70s pinballs with just new makeup on it.
Right. Well,
So-
things did change, however.
Yeah, but back then it was that lack of, innovation?
Innovation, they were just pretty much not a lot in it. Let's put it that way.
So that ended up with this feeling like pinballs were just a relic of the past. Nobody
Yeah.
really touched them. Nobody really played them. And then we fast forward to this thing called the pandemic.
Before the pandemic, there were some, sporadic increases in the popularity of pinball. I mean, the 90s, we did see some of the greatest pinball machines ever
Well,
made.
the Terminator 2,
Yeah, we had Medieval Madness,
Addams Family.
Attack from Mars.
Whirlwind.
Yeah, these things were great but it didn't keep the industry from starting to tank later on.
Just put it on life support.
Yeah.
You know, and even then, was that just mainly Stern making those even then at that point?
Well, no, I mean, after the basically the 2000s, it was pretty much Stern only. So, you know, that leaves to the idea of like who's the market? Who's going to be buying them now?
Well, the problem is a pinball machine's not cheap, right?
No, not at all.
Pinballs, a brand new pinball is what, $15,000 probably for a pinball. So it's not like anybody can just go out and run and grab one of those.
Right.
But the older machines, pre-pandemic, that were still around, you know, those Terminators you're talking about, they would run a couple of $1,000, $800, right?
$800, yeah, they weren't that much, but the pandemic hit and everything went up.
Because everybody's bored.
Yeah, we got to do something in the house, so why not? Hey, we can have a pinball machine.
Start a whiskey channel.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what happened. So pinball got elevated to a new level.
That's right.
And it created this new interest in pinball. And I think that's when I can remember even you started really adding up the pinballs in the house.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. I mean, the pinball itself got a kick in the pants in 2013 when Jersey Jack released The Wizard of Oz.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
New pinball today kind of merged that digital age became, and that kinetic energy that you're talking about became one.
Oh,
and then we started seeing this resurgence of all these themed pinballs, like Marvels and movie themed pinballs, way more than we saw, because there was always movie themed pinballs in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but they just weren't at the same level.
They weren't at this level.
Because now that we have LCD screens in the machines, now we're getting movie clips.
Well, you're getting these stunning visuals, these incredible gameplay options that weren't there before.
Right.
I mean, you talk about what's the like the things that pop up, the toys or the traps,
all the different toys in the game. They're all interactive to such a degree. The coding has gotten so far that the level of sophistication with the programming of these machines is incredible.
Right?
Incredible, yeah.
So this hobby impact created an issue. First, it created a home market that didn't exist before, right? How common was it where you'd walk in somebody's house and they'd have one pinball?
Yeah, unless they were already kind of deep into, you know, the home arcade scene, hardly anybody ever had a pinball machine at home. There was very few.
And through this resurgence, you go to somebody's house now who's into pinball.
Yeah.
They don't have one.
Oh, they're like hangers. They breed in the dark. They just start showing up. You got more than you.
Like a rabbit.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like these balls are growing.
Once you get one, you're gonna have three.
Just grow some balls.
And there's a nostalgic factor, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's some of us who grew up with those older pinballs we're talking about, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
And we're buying those up. But then there's that nostalgic factor of all these new ideas of pinball that we never had before. So a good example of that would be like the recent Labyrinth pinball.
Oh, well, that's a good example. I mean, it's a boutique company now can actually exist in the market, and Barrels of Fun made the Labyrinth pinball, and it hits right on that, you know, it gets your Memba berries real hard.
Your what?
Memba berries. It's, you know, you don't know what Memba berries are?
I can't remember that.
Remember Chewbacca again, Member? Oh, hi, Member. Yeah.
Now, also, there's an investment potential with a pinball. So a lot of people don't realize that when you go and spend $15,000 for a pinball, it may be worth $20,000 before you get it delivered to your house.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it may be. It depends on what it is. But the thing is on the worst case scenario, you buy a pinball machine and you take it home and you play with it a year, you may have only lost a couple $100 total on your purchase.
You can't do that with a car.
No, you can't do that at all. And then in a lot of cases, you do actually make money on top of what you bought it for.
Yeah, there's some pinballs that are so sought after and they're limited editions. If you buy that and they're sold out before they go out, there are tons of collectors who will pay top dollar to get one of those, way beyond what they originally sold for.
Correct.
Pretty common with a lot of hobbies, right?
Yeah, well, of course.
And what's also common in a lot of hobbies is customization. The neat thing that's changed with pinball that you couldn't do in the 90s is you can customize your pinball to a level that is unheard of.
We have technology of 3D printing and all these other fast ways of making mods now that, I mean, it takes a hobby of just enjoying a game to actually something that you pilfer with, tinker with, to make it, you know, unique and different for yourself. So that's another reason why people are really into it. It's like Lego meets pinball, you know, create your own kind of a thing.
Lego my ego.
There's even the virtual pins. Virtual pins are getting a big explosion because of the popularity of pinball and those who can't afford a $15,000 unit.
Right. Well, let's be fair. I mean, there's plenty of games that are going to be,
Completely.
about $7,000. They're not going to have to all be 15.
But if you wanted to play like the new, let's say, Looney Tunes.
Well, it's going to be up there. It's going to be like 12 grand.
But on a digital surface, you could be playing it tomorrow for half that price.
Well, yeah. You mean if you just bought the
VR pin.
The VR pin? Yeah. You bought it outright?
Then you just throw Looney Tunes on there and you're playing it and you didn't go spend another $15,000 to buy that pin.
You got your VR pin and then anything after that, hey, it's cents on the dollar comparatively.
Completely. And that you did bring up a good point. So these boutique pinballs is one of those things that's changed. So like Spooky Pinball is a boutique pinball manufacturer.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And they produce things like Halloween, Looney Tunes, Texas Chainsaw. And let's not forget that in just a very few moments, we're going to go play the new Evil Dead machine at the Texas Pinball Convention.
Yeah, so it's going to be great. We're going to be lined up for who knows how long to try to play.
Doesn't matter. There's also the competitive market, so that's changed. Now they're trying to make pinball a real legit competitive sport.
Yeah, now people are going to argue is pinball a sport or not, but
I don't know.
I mean,
is breakdancing a sport? That was here recently.
Hell, if
you
pinball makes it into the Olympics, I guess we'll be. But yeah, no, there's whole competitions, national, international competitions. Now, they've been around for a long time, but they've also been gaining a lot of traction because there's a lot of young people, sub 20, we're talking teenagers to 20-year-olds that are actually winning these things.
Well, see, now that's what's wrong today. We're teenagers who just go out and get drunk, do drugs, and get a bunch of people pregnant.
We can't put that on the video.
Oh.
What did you say?
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Yeah, all right.
What would you say would be some of the most popular game pinballs that you would buy right now? That you don't have?
That I don't have?
That you don't have.
Okay, well, I mean...
we don't want to know what you got. Because
I would like a labyrinth pinball.
I'm waiting for you to get that.
I would like an Attack from Mars from the 90s. That's popular.
Not as excited.
I wouldn't mind an Evil Dead.
I wouldn't mind you having an Evil Dead, then I don't have to buy it.
Speaking of spooky, I also wouldn't mind an Ultraman.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I like kaiju and monsters and stuff like that, so...
Yeah, because you do have a Godzilla.
I do have the Godzilla, so there is that. No, those are some pretty games I'd be interested in on the short list.
And so, on that short list, what pinballs come out recently that, surprised the crap out of you that actually made it?
Oh, they actually made... Well, I think Evil Dead's a good example.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to ever be made.
I have to agree with you on that, actually. That's actually a good point.
Yeah, I didn't think that was ever going to make it.
I always thought I was going to throw out Jaws, but actually now you're saying that, yeah, Jaws makes more sense than Evil Dead does.
Yeah.
Not for me, though.
Not for you. You're like, you never sat around going, man, I just need a Jaws.
Nope, but I will say, as soon as I saw that Evil Dead machine, I was like...
You're like...
I could take one of these arcades and move them out of the way.
Yeah, what should I sell to get that one? See, that's the problem with pinball. They hook you.
So do you think we're in the golden age of pinball?
Oh, I absolutely think so. Even if, the market is people maybe don't have as much money to spend on it as they did just 2 years ago.
Yeah, I will say that I've seen the prices starting to kind of level down.
Yeah, they're leveling. But the whole thing is the exposure is what we're really talking about. And it's continually being picked up. More and more people are realizing and saying the thing, oh, they still make those? Which you can't believe that was a conversation to be had, but it is.
Yeah.
People didn't even know that pinball's being made still.
Yeah. Well, you know what we should do?
Well.
We should go get in the whiskey bus.
Yeah.
And go down to Texas and go to this convention.
Yeah. The Texas Pinball Festival is going to be fantastic.
Well, let's go check it out.
Let's go.
to say this, but I want to go back and do that again.
Yeah, I could spend the majority of my life doing just that.
You do spend a good portion of your life doing that.
Yeah, maybe so.
In the meantime, be sure to like, share, and
Subscribe, and don't forget to ding the dong.
that one right here, the one that just went dong.
Yeah.
But please be sure to follow us next Friday, where
Yeah.
we will review Davis County Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey finished in lightly toasted American oak barrels. Did that sound confident?
Or is it Davies?
Or is it Davies?
Oh, I'm not very confident. I'm not sure.
No. Either way,
Cheers.
cheers.